Welcome, everybody, back to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. You are listening to episode number 7.
You know, it doesn't always have to be as uncomfortable as sometimes people make it out to be. You know, I've told people, hey, I live in a duplex, I rent to a tenant upstairs, and they're, I would never do that. And you're like, you know what? If I were to lose my job today, I am sure that I could make this mortgage payment.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Super excited for today's guest. His story is unbelievable. And we have a lot to unpack here today. So we go into Jason's story. So basically, he was incarcerated for about 8 years. It goes into a neat subject of how he was able to actually use his last year incarcerated as a year of work history. That way, he was able to get into an FHA loan faster because of it. Talks about how he got out, zero credit, didn't know how to use a bank account, didn't know, all this social media, everything like that. He really started from zero and worked his way up in just a short few years. He was able now to have a couple properties. He's house hacking still. He's just crushing it in real estate, and he has huge goals. And I just think this is a motivating story of how you can change things around maybe if you're not in a good place right now. So he is an amazing guest, an amazing person, and I'm super excited for you guys to hear today. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and let's get right in to hear his story. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. We have a great guest in Jason Peterson today. How are you doing today, Jason?
I'm very good. Very good.
Perfect.
How about yourself?
Perfect. I'm doing well. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on. This is going to be a great podcast. I already know it. So for those of you that do not know, Jason was actually recently on the Rookie Real Estate podcast, the Bigger Pockets Rookie podcast. I think it was show 129. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 129. So if you guys want to go see more information, obviously watch this one first. But if you want to see more information, go ahead and go over to that and watch that. He has a great story, and I kind of want to start this podcast off a little differently. Usually we go into how you got started in real estate. I just want to hear your story first. So tell me a little bit about yourself, your upbringing, what you went through, and then how you got to where you are today.
Okay, yeah, so this is a little more unconventional than your average podcast guest, but I was the product of a single mother. I grew up kind of misbehaving, I guess you could say. I never really learned my lesson. I was a wild kid that had bad role models, and I emulated them, and that got me into some serious trouble. I caught myself. I joined the Marine Corps. I didn't really clean up my act, and I got discharged. And when I came back home, I got into some more serious trouble, and deservedly so. It sent me to prison for 8 years. So I deserved every day that I sat in there, and I used it to better myself and learn new things and instill discipline. And the same discipline that I learned in there and in the Marine Corps, I use now to benefit my life. So I was released, and there were a lot of challenges I had to overcome. Just, zero credit, the bad rap of being an ex-con. But, I didn't let that stop me. And I dove into learning everything I could about real estate. I had the very fortunate advantage of a cousin that was a mentor to me. He pretty much showed me the resources to study up on, and I soaked it all up, learned everything I could, and I hit a home run on a house hack, and I've been rolling ever since. So real estate is awesome. It's changed my life.
Yeah, and I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you probably learned a ton from the experiences that you went through and having to face adversity. So you're probably way better off right now, having gone what you've gone through. Obviously, you wish that you didn't, but going through, what did you learn as far as like every time you faced adversity, getting hit in the face, getting back up and going after it? Because, after so many times, you would think that, you'd fall down, but you just kept going. And now, I mean, you're at a point right now where you have multiple properties, and you're doing excellent, and you're doing a lot right now. So what kind of did you learn from that?
I mean, I have said this before, and I've caught a lot of feedback from it, but I think it would be a benefit to a lot of people to take a sabbatical to kind of learn about themselves. I mean, day-to-day life is very busy. There's tons of distractions. Modern life is crazy. I mean, social media, and you're constantly facing an onslaught of distractions. And the time that I spent away in there allowed me to learn what my true strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and to build upon my weaknesses. And when it comes to real estate, I face so much just actual physical adversity about, where I live and the environment I live. So when it comes to taking risk, I really don't have much fear. I kind of feel that that's a benefit to me, because what's the worst that can happen? I mean, if I lose everything I have, which I won't, because I've educated myself to, buy properly and, operate my business properly. But if I were to, I mean, how low can I go? If I have a bathroom with a door on it, I'm happy. So I think the advantage there is it's kind of twofold. I'm not fearful, but yet the adversity I've faced has helped me, be stronger and find out how to be a problem solver at all times.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's crucial right there. I think the same exact thing. My wife and I actually spoke about this too. We actually, at nighttime, we will put our phones away, because social media and, all those outlets, it's a distraction. And, you kind of just compare yourself to others, and it's hard, like you said, to figure out who you are and, where you're going, where your goals. It's hard to, for me, I have a house hack in one property. I'm comparing myself to, these big shots with so many properties. Not only that, but just self-imaging and everything. So I think that's huge, to take time to yourself, like you said, and just figure out who you are and what your goals are, where you want to be. And, a break from social media, I think, could benefit a lot of people. But yeah, you've learned a lot. Let's go into like the overview of your portfolio right now.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I'm still residing in the house hack that I started off with. When you're paying very little of the mortgage, it's kind of hard to leave that situation, because there's so much freedom there. But with the equity that I gained upon that purchase, I have bought 4 other properties since. I actually ended up selling one. That one was kind of a pain in the backside, so I had to get rid of it, and I didn't lose money on it. I just lost the headache. I actually gained some money. So I live in a duplex. I own 2 more duplexes and a single family that I have a Section 8 tenant in, and that's going splendid. I actually would like to pick up more Section 8 type properties.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it before, and I almost thought about putting a Section 8 person in my 4 unit. It's really, it's you get paid every month. It's government backed, so you get paid. And a lot of people kind of have a stipulation of Section 8's, no good. But in my opinion, it may even work out better, because these people are probably trying to find a home. It's hard to find Section 8 tenants or places that will accept Section 8 tenants right now. And they probably would be grateful. What's your experience so far with that Section 8 tenant?
Man, it's a perfect program. And especially if you can, they go off the bedroom. So if you can like find a diamond in the rough, like a 4-bedroom single family house, I mean, your current market rent is like $1,650. I mean, that's for this area. Obviously, it's going to be on a scale with whatever area you're in. But I mean, I'm picking up single family houses for $65,000. So I mean, you do the math. That's over 2% property. So
that's insane.
Yeah. So I found that the Section 8, the tenants I get, mostly on average, it takes them about 4 years for their voucher to be approved. So you're somewhat, so you're somewhat protected as a landlord, because if they don't pay their portion of the rent, I mean, the housing authority is one phone call away, and you tell them you have a problem tenant and they lose their voucher. I mean, they've waited 4 years for this. My Section 8 tenants are the best tenants I have. I have no problems. They're very courteous, and I think they get a bad rap. And I think if you really hack that down as your strategy, I think there has been people, I've listened to several podcasts of people whose whole strategy is Section 8, and I can see why. I mean, they get a bad rap, but at the end of the day, you're getting paid.
Yeah, I think they should definitely, listeners should definitely look into their market if that's something that they're willing to do, because it is a set amount, right? Like you can go on the website and see like the set amount for like a 1, 2, 3 bedroom.
Yeah. Whichever community you're in, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom. So and
exactly.
It's current. It's high. I mean, it's higher than I would get if I was just open market renting. So
yeah, exactly. Wow. Okay. And what market are you in? Just so listeners know.
I'm in Milwaukee, and a community like 20 miles south of Milwaukee. It's Racine. So I've just found very profitable cash flowing rentals there. So hey, might as well.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And do you manage right now by yourself?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And how has that been? Have you found it pretty easy?
I'm not going to lie to you. When I first was green and, I started accumulating properties, I'm like everybody else, I've been through a lot of adversity, but I feel anxiety like the next guy. If it's, it's, you can't sit here and be, cocky and, brag all the time that, I'm not worried about anything. But no, I'd get phone calls from tenants, and it was a problem I had never dealt with. Hot water heater goes out and it's 20 below because it's pretty cold up here. And, I have nobody to go fix it, and I need to take care of this problem. But, at the end of the day, if you set aside enough for cash reserves and you build up your network, help is a phone call away. I'm very big on, I'm a friendly guy, and I talk to as many people as I can, and, try to offer them value too, because, the more you can offer somebody, the more likely they are to return the favor. So, I mean, and if they never and if they never return the favor, then, so what? I'm a friendly guy.
Nice. Exactly.
Absolutely. I get more out of that than anything. So.
Exactly. And I say this all the time, probably too much, but network is your net worth. It's simple as that. You help someone in this industry, you're going to get help back. It's just how it is, And like you said, if nothing comes out of it, you did something nice and you can feel good about yourself,
Definitely.
So,
and that kind of all spins off of, I bought one of my properties that's kind of been a little more maintenance heavy. And I bought it from the guy who in actuality is my handyman now. So,
wow.
Yeah, and he was kind of not too happy with, my situation. It took us a while to close. There was some, my HELOC didn't clear and underwriting had a little hang up. So he wasn't happy with me at first, but when he came to the closing table, I befriended him. And so here's the guy that sold me the property, and he runs a handyman service, and now he's my handyman. So, I mean, you never know what kind of relationships you're going to cultivate when you put yourself out there.
Exactly. And I mean, I've had people on the podcast so far say that they do the same thing right after someone sells them a property or they're under contract. Then they just go back to them and say, hey, do you have any more properties? And, or they may know someone that has more properties. And then, you can kind of build, a network there, and you can build a relationship that may be so invaluable for you and your business. So I want to talk just because, are you a handyman? Are you pretty handy, or do you hire out a lot?
I hire out a lot, but, I'm also a very frugal by nature guy. I watched my
Okay.
mom struggle as a kid, clipping coupons and, saving it money every way we could. But if I can fix it, and if I can be fairly confident that I can do it without, multiple Home Depot trips, then I might take a swing at it. But most of the time, I'm a busy guy. I have a year-and-a-half-old son that's running around, and, I work a full-time W-2 job. So if I can hire it out, most of the time I will. But, sometimes handymen can be kind of selective on what jobs they want to tackle and which jobs they don't. So,
Exactly. And I just think it's like, it's preference. Like you probably started off doing the work yourself, then you found a handyman, you hired it out, and now you have systems in play so that you can manage yourself. But I think there's nothing wrong with someone starting in a house hack. And because I started I tell this all the time, that I started in a 4-unit house hack with my wife. And we had to we bought it. It was under-rented, mismanaged, crazy tenants in there. And we had to go next door and evict them because they weren't paying. And they flipped the lid. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know any laws. So, we were like, what, screw it. We're hiring a property manager. And it's just been, it cash flows enough so that I can pay for the property manager. And, it just works best for us. So we didn't build, our system is having a property manager, whereas, your system is that you manage it all. You have the handyman, you have all the systems in place so you can make it work as well. So either or, I think you really can't go wrong. It's just your personal preference. So.
Yeah, definitely. And if I was to scale quite a bit larger, I think that, man, that's, pretty much a desired thing is to be completely hands off and, just collect checks at the end of the month, because I think, being passive is the reason we're in this game. So, but, at this point, like I said, I'm pretty good at being frugal, and most of the time if you buy correctly, these maintenance issues should really be something that you can handle. And plus, when you're starting out, I kind of think that people should have a basic understanding of the kind of calls that come through, because there's a lot of property management companies you need to be very careful of too, because they might not do a better job than you will do yourself self-managing, and you kind of have to chaperone them as well. So I think when you first start out, you can gain a lot of value and a lot of experience by fielding some of these calls yourself. Now, one trick I would use is, when you take on the property, if you have inherited tenants or you put the tenants in, just address yourself as the property manager. I mean, you really do not. You are the property manager. You're not.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're not being, evasive, or you're not telling a lie, or, it's basically something that you'll be able to defer some of the requests and attention by, hey, you know what? Let me think about it. I'm going to have to consult, the people that run the books, and
exactly. Yeah. And I have a buddy who he did that too. He lived in a house hack, and he lived there, and he was the quote unquote property manager and owner. But anytime someone would come to him and say, "Look, we need this done," he'd say, "All right, let me check with the owner." And it's as simple as that, so that they won't be the bad guy. In the eyes, it will be the owner,
Oh, yeah.
So.
And you'll get questions like on the spot that you don't really know legally how to answer these questions. And I think that to protect yourself, you should really have a buffer where you don't have to answer these questions right on the spot, so you can actually have time to contemplate it. I mean, I've had questions about vicious dog breeds and whether I would allow them or not. And I mean, there's been times I've had to think about whether or not I would take the risk of having any kind of dog for the the $50 extra a month for the pet policy. So I mean, it gives you time to process what's being asked you.
Exactly. And you brought up, I just want to touch real quick. Who do you consult if you have like a legal question? Do you have someone that you can go to?
Yeah, I have a mentor cousin that he has 107 doors. So, I mean, he's if there's any question that comes up, he's probably most likely has dealt with it in the past, and he actually has a contact that's a real estate lawyer that I've actually called.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so.
Perfect. So if let's say a listener doesn't have a cousin that has 107 doors, who do you think they should, consult about?
I think there's a community. I mean, as much as I just demonized social media, if you use it correctly, there's a plethora of people out here that would love to get a DM to talk about real estate. Because most of the time, I talk so much about real estate, it's fallen on deaf ears. I mean, a lot of not your average community of people want to just constantly talk about real estate. But you have your social media. I mean, there's forums you could ask these questions to. It's all about, like you just said, your network is your net worth. I mean, I have no qualms to, message somebody. Even I've had very successful multi-millionaires that I have gotten into Instagram conversations with. They've reacted to one of my stories, and I open the door and I've talked to them. I mean, these are very high-level members of GoBundance, which is like a mastermind group that you need $1 million net worth at least to get in there. So, I mean, open your mouth, ask these questions, and make sure that you're bulletproof. And there's people, in real estate, if a question's being asked, it's probably happened before. You're not the first one facing that problem. So you're going to find a resource to answer your question.
Yeah, that's great stuff. So, okay, well, let's transition. All right, so you just got out of prison, right? And you're going to buy your first house hack, like you said. How do you go about doing that? Because, I mean, how much credit did you have, and kind of how did you get over that?
So I had zero credit, but I was fortunate to have a W-2 job. And so I had done 8 years in prison, so I was in the Stone Age technology-wise. So basically, I didn't know anything about mobile banking, barely knew how to work a cell phone, which was a smartphone at this time. So no mobile banking. So I would get direct deposited W-2 checks every Friday. And, I knew to be frugal. I didn't need much. I came out from, almost a decade of having nothing. So I was very low on the luxury items I needed. So on Friday I would get paid, and I would actually physically walk into the bank, and I inquired about a prepaid credit card. So I got this prepaid credit card. It had a $500 limit on it, and I would get gas. I would put gas on this prepaid credit card, and then the next Friday I would come back in to get my paycheck, take whatever little cash I needed out for the week, and then I would pay off the credit card immediately. So after about 9 months of doing this, my credit got built up, I think, to the high 600s. And in all this time, I was saving my money. There's very little, expenses on my end. And to tell you the truth, I was scared to spend it because I didn't want to go back to absolute zero again. So I saved all my money, which wasn't a big sum. I didn't get paid a lot. I mean, this is Wisconsin, and I had a pretty entry-level job because of my record. So I found the house hack that, is a for sale by owner. And at that point, I contacted the lender, and I was able to know that I could go ahead with it. So I was pre-approved for FHA financing.
Oh, that's great. And how long did you have to work at your job for 2 years?
Yes. And that's kind of a situation here where in the Wisconsin prison system, if you can take on certain assignments and get shipped to certain prisons. So I worked on a dairy farm under police supervision. They would drive around in their golf carts, and we would, deal with everything a dairy farm, and it's negative 30-degree weather. But in doing that, you start to build trust within the prison system that you're not going to pull an escape move. So
yeah.
That way, yeah. So
yeah, I hope you wouldn't.
no. But hey, you'd be surprised. A lot of guys, they try their luck and then they take off running, and then the whole town goes on red alert looking for them. So, but I didn't do that.
Side topic, real quick. Have you seen anyone escape?
No, I haven't. But we've been on lockdown for attempts. So
wow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, people would do like walkaway escapes. Yeah, but. That's more at the community level. So, I don't know why they would do that, because usually when they get to that level, they have like 6 months left. So for them to do that. Oh, wow.
So you might as well just stick it out. Jeez.
It's usually about a girl, it's usually something to do with their ex-wife or an ex-girlfriend that can't help themselves. But So I did, I put in work. I mean, I worked after that dairy farm, I got an opportunity to work under other supervision at a stone quarry where we pretty much made big rocks into small rocks. It was probably the hardest job of my life. And, but I mean, after that, everything's downhill. Everything's a coast. You're coasting after you're smashing rocks all day. So I got down to Milwaukee, and I was able to work at my current job while still being incarcerated. They put an ankle bracelet on me and then allowed me to work there. So I had 1 year incarcerated at my current job that counted as the 2 years for W-2. Yeah, the financing. Well,
that's great. I mean, yeah, that's great. And you took on these hard, tasking, probably physically tasking jobs that, after you completed that, you were probably at a point where you're like, you know what, I can get through this. I can get through anything, and was that kind of your mindset?
Oh, definitely. I mean, guys were getting released from prison to go out to these outside community jobs, and they're hard jobs. And I mean, some guys would quit. I mean, they would rather be locked up in a cell than to do some of these jobs. I mean, they're hard jobs. So, I mean, that's a testament that, I mean, I was never a quitter to begin with, the going through the Marine Corps and, going through all these.
And I just think it's huge that, I mean, you had a decision. You could either sit in your cell, like you said, or you can go out there, work this hard job, physical demanding job, and you can get a year's of work history. So you're a year ahead of the people that decided not to, that got out of jail. So now you only have to work another year, and then, like you said, you got approved for an FHA. Now you can house hack. So I just think that's another, that's just another proof of concept that you were willing to, face that adversity head on, get past it, and really better yourself. So I think that's huge to you, and I think that's very inspirational. So you got out of that. You did another year outside after you were incarcerated, and then you were able to get this FHA loan. Can you go ahead and tell listeners real quick what FHA is and kind of the requirements for it?
Yeah, definitely. FHA is a government-backed loan. I think the housing department of the government they back these loans, and they're owner-occupied loans, and they make it very, very, approachable for the common citizen to get. The credit score requirement is much lower. It fluctuates. I think at the time it was high fives, actually. I think it was 580 at one point. So they're very lenient on that, and it's a low down payment. I mean, it's 3.5%, and there's some other fees associated with it, but it's you can use it on a 1 to 4 unit, and so that's where the house hack comes in. So
and the FHA 3.5% down. I mean, when people go to house hack and say they house hack, that's typically what they use, because the lowest down payment, they get you, like you said, get you a great credit score, rating to get into it. Like 3.25% was, I believe, ours when we did our house hack. So it allows a first time home buyer or someone that's that doesn't own any properties to get an FHA loan. And I think that's huge that you got educated. How did you, was that your cousin that kind of pushed you in the direction of that?
Yeah. If it wasn't him, then, if it wasn't him specifically for that, I think it was just the realization of how little capital I had. And that was kind of like my only route. Because to tell you the truth, the house that I ended up in was, by all intents and purposes, not very FHA friendly. I mean, there were a lot of things that, I was crossing my fingers like, please pass this FHA appraisal. And it did. Yeah. But definitely it was just kind of it had to happen that way. And then the education that I got, from podcasts, and books.
Exactly. So. And in the experience, once you purchase a property, I was nervous my first time, but the knowledge that I learned from the first one was way more than any books or anything that could teach you. Like, you're going through the motions of an actual landlord, you're doing everything, and you learn so much of what not to do and what to do. I learned a lot what not to do, but yeah. So you found this property, right? You found this property off market. Kind of go through how you negotiated that.
Okay, yeah. So I was going for a little jog through my neighborhood, and I saw the for sale by owner sign out in the yard. And, after I've read all these books that say, hey, that's what you got to look for, I stopped what I was doing. I wrote the number down, went back home, and made an immediate call. And I set up the showing with the owners, and I actually had my cousin come along, so I had a little coaching, because up until that point, I don't really know what to look for in a property. I knew that it would cash flow dependent on what they wanted. They didn't really tell us their bottom line price until we did the showing. So I walked in with my cousin. I noticed there were a few things that needed attention, but I wasn't intimidated. I mean, it was, I knew the logic of the house hack immediately upon reading one book. I just, oh my God, why has nobody ever told me about this before, So I negotiated with the sellers. They wanted 105, and I got them down to 97,000. So it's a 4-bedroom and 4-bedroom lower and a 1-bedroom, pretty large 1-bedroom upper. So
okay. And when you got the property, what were the rents? Was it both units rented?
No, it was just a family that it's split. Everything's split. The water meters, everything are split.
Oh,
However, they were just kind of using it as a family home. It was kind of a situation where the matriarch of the family had, fallen ill, and they put her in a nursing home. So it was kind of the sons and daughters that had to sell the house. So
okay, yeah. And what were the market rents that you thought you'd get for it? And did it need a lot of repairs?
The upper was good to go. I mean, the upper was pretty much turnkey. A little dated, but in this area, I live in a very nice area. I have a park across the street. This house was just very ugly on the outside. I mean, it's got slate siding, just super ugly to look at. But the upstairs was turnkey. And right at closing, as soon as I got the keys from the sellers, I came back here, had an open house, and I had a tenant that night. I mean, I ran her back. Yeah, and for me, it was all so, it happened so fast, because, here I am, 9 months before this, and I'm paying a different landlord a triple security deposit because of my record. I don't blame him. Now that I'm a landlord, I see why he would want that triple security deposit, but it's just so ironic that 9 months later now, me and my convicted felon record is collecting a security deposit. And it's just so crazy, the power of real estate. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I put a tenant up there for, I think she was paying $575. So,
okay. And how'd you advertise that? You said you got it first day. That probably felt amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Craigslist. And the tenant couldn't have been better. She was with us for 2 years, and obviously we reside in the same property, and you wouldn't even know that there was somebody up there. She's a really good college kid and just minded her own business, and it was the most comfortable house hack. It doesn't always have to be as uncomfortable as sometimes people make it out to be. I've told people, hey, I live in a duplex, I rent to a tenant upstairs, and they're, ooh, I would never do that. And it's like, you know what? If I were to lose my job today, I am sure that I could make this mortgage payment because I have help.
Exactly. My favorite quote of all time: "Do what others won't now, so you can live how others can't later." I mean, that's if you don't sacrifice now, you're not going to be able to do what you want later. So, I mean, prime example. And I have the same thing. I have friends, because I've done it myself. I have friends ask me, "Hey, like that's awesome that you did that. How can I get into a property and kind of do the same thing?" And I tell them, I was like, "Look, do a house hack. I can help you find one." They're like, "Nah, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to get a single family, and my girlfriend doesn't want to do that, all that stuff." And I'm like, that's what you have to do. You have to sacrifice if you want to get forward, and that's really in anything.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm almost kind of worried because like the house hack is so comfortable with your like security in life and the freedoms you have that and then especially when you consume all of this content that is kind of debts, assets and liabilities based, it's going to be very hard to convince me to move to a single family. I think I'm going to just get more pressure from the wife, and I see all my son's stuff start to accumulate, so I might have to make that move soon. But I think at a certain point, you might have to break yourself away from the house hack because it's just there's such a sense of security by knowing that
so many benefits.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and maybe you can just, convince her to go to a side-by-side, nicer one.
Yeah.
Yeah, get into another one. Yeah, exactly. I tried to do that with my wife, and she cracked the whip. So we got a single-family house. No, but it is, honestly, I 100% agree with you. It is extremely hard to get out of the house hack because, like, when my wife and I were in there, she was so skeptical. It was hard to get her on board. But now that she saw that, like, she loved it, and she was like, "You know what? We can stay in this house hack." And like, she was fine with staying in it. And we were at a point where we had money to dispose, and that house or that 4-unit is going to pay for the 4-unit and this house that we purchased, and it's going to still cash flow. So it just made sense for us to get it so that we have those 4 tenants paying down 5 units now instead of 4. So that's kind of how we went about it. But I mean, same thing for you. Like it's insane. And what can you rent your unit for? Because you said it was 4 bedrooms, right? What could you rent yours for?
Easily $1,100. Easily.
Wow.
So, and then the market has kind of appreciated. So I've, upped that rent on that 1 bedroom. I'm getting $725 for it. So, and here's the thing, I would move to a single family. All the cash flow from all my accumulated rentals that it's only been 3 years, but it's been a heck of, the last 3 years, and all of the cash flow from all of my rentals combined, I could legitimately have the mortgage covered on a dream house. But
yeah, exactly.
But that's not my goal. My goal is to replace my income and have time freedom because, like I said, I don't need much luxury. Whether my wife and son, that's a whole different story. But for me to sacrifice all the cash flow from my current portfolio on a dream house with square footage that I legitimately don't even need, I would rather use that cash flow to replace my income and buy some time freedom because that's really what I'm after. I mean,
yep, I think that's the end goal for a lot of people. And so you bought this property. You said you got it for $95,000? $97,000. Okay, so you got it for $97,000. You moved in. You got someone upstairs. Talk about just talk more about how you structured the deal. I mean, it's FHA obviously, but once you got into the house hack, what'd you do to kind of fix it up? And did you end up pulling a HELOC? Did you end up refinancing? What was your play on that?
Okay, the deal was crazy. So as ugly as the big eyesore duplex was, on the initial appraisal, it appraised at $165,000. So I mean, here I am with an offer for $97,000 under contract, and the initial appraisal with nothing done to it was $165,000. So right there, I knew. Yeah, right there, I knew. You know, the saying, you make your money on the buy. I mean, this time it really rung true. So after I had the house and I let it season for 6 months, I came into the lower unit here, and man, it needed some work. We did a full gut job on the kitchen, and money I was running very short. I mean, I pretty much secured this house with $3,000. I used seller credits, to offset some of the closing costs. I mean, that's a pretty good tactic. I think everyone should kind of learn and utilize. But, I had to rehab and pick and choose what I was going to tackle in this lower unit when I had the money available. I mean, the kitchen depleted me. I had nothing left. I've had to actually, borrow money from family for a few weeks until I'd get that paycheck, just because I needed to get this work done. I mean, we were living here. We had a plywood countertop probably for about 2 months, but hey, we made it work. You need water, go to the bathroom sink. I have to give credit to my wife, because she's been with me through all of this, and having a supportive spouse is very important when you're going to live in somewhat unconventional situations like this. If you're keeping up with the Joneses, they're not house hacking. So you need to
exactly. And I think you nailed it. Having a supportive spouse really pushes you and makes you believe that you can do more than what you can do alone, which I feel the same way. My wife was my backbone through everything, and and like you were trying to just achieve financial freedom and delay that instant gratification. I think Brandon Turner calls it the creep. Yeah. As you're getting everything, you start to creep up in lifestyle. But I mean, if you can delay that, seriously, you and I, we can, in 10, 15 years, we'll be able to have that gratification. And then at that time, my wife and I are expecting right now, but your child, is going to be at that age where you can really spend time with them. You know what I mean? So that's really the end goal of all of this. So, but you ended up taking a HELOC or cash out?
I did a cash out refi. So basically, I snatched that equity back out. And by the time, I had the appraisal for the cash out refinance, I had done some repairs in here. So it had an updated kitchen. I did a lot of other type of, I put carpets, floors, all that kind of stuff in. So when it was cash out refi time, it appraised at that point for $175. So I had quite a large chunk to pull out. And I did, and I got, the tax-free cash out refinance check. I knocked off the PMI. I paid a quite considerably larger rate, because when you do a cash out refinance, the rate you get usually isn't as, low as your FHA original occupied rate. But
exactly.
Hey, if you can take $40,000 tax-free money and you can roll it into 3 more properties that are giving you a 30% cash on cash return. I mean, just do the math. I mean, the small uptick in percentage points you're going to pay is nothing compared to the amount of money.
It probably offset from the PMI that you dropped, and then the interest rate that it probably offset a little bit. So it probably wasn't as much as, you thought. And oh my gosh, I take that any day. I'd be skipping to the settlement table, if that was the case. So that's awesome. So you said that you turned that into 3 more properties? How did you do that?
So the next property I bought was, I didn't this is the learning experience property. When you get a $40,000 tax-free check and you know all about investing, or you think you know all about investing, and you're fired up from everything you learn, you get kind of jumpy. So one of the first properties, I was like, hey, this one will cash flow. It's right in my range. Let me take a look at it. So I didn't do enough due diligence on it. There was no off-street parking. The property was in not the nicest area of Milwaukee, I guess. And so that one, it cash flowed, but I learned a lot, on property management with that. I had a tenant that taught me a lot. Let's just say that. So, I mean, I know how interactions between the Milwaukee Police Department and the neighborhood services. Let's just say I learned a lot about that side of town and that type of property. So I learned my lesson.
Was that a single or multifamily?
That was a single. That was a 3-bedroom single that I got for $63,000. And it was a rougher area, so I only rented it for $850. So,
okay. But still, I mean, it beats the 1% rule, and like you said, it's a learning experience, and you probably learned a ton from that second property, and you probably applied it, to the third and fourth. That's probably right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
exactly. And everything's a lesson. So you took those lessons, you turned it into the third property. What was the third property?
The third property was a duplex in Racine. That's that town 20 miles south of Milwaukee here, and it was, I believe, I paid $72,000 for it, and gross rents are $1,280. So. This is the one this is the one I bought from the handyman, and I haven't had really much to do over there, and the tenants are great. They were inherited tenants. I have a lot of inherited tenants, to be honest, and some are for it, some are against it, but in my situation, the property that was for sale had tenants in place, and to tell you the truth, the numbers made sense, and I wanted to cash flow right away. I mean, I was collecting rent before I had the first mortgage payment. So there's never been a time where it has cost me anything on my investments. So
yeah, and how did you finance, first off, how did you finance property 2 and 3? And then you said you made so there's a seasoning period, right? After you sign at the settlement table. Was that if it's the second half of the month, I believe you get that following month and the month after that off. And then you start the third, if you will, the third. But how did that work out for you? And then how did you finance those two?
So the second and third property, I still had, I was working my W-2, saving everything I had. But the $40,000 cash out refinance check pretty much funded the down payments on those two properties. I mean, they're, it's $63,000 purchase price and $71,000 on the duplex. So, I mean, I was pretty much spending everything I had in order to acquire these properties. But now, in the meantime, I'm working my W-2. I'm house hacking. I have a car that is completely paid off. So my expenses are super low, but now I have all these streams of income coming in. So I'm watching my bank account grow and grow and grow at a rate it never had before with one stream of income. And the expense of rent, now that's subsidized by the tenant that's paying down, my expense to live. So I did that, and then I actually found another property, and I needed more money. This was an off-market property. It was a friend of a friend, a networking buddy, an old school landlord that, has been landlording here in Milwaukee since the 70s. And he had one he was willing to part with, and now came the time where I had to get enough for a down payment. So I called my lender, and my lender suggested that, hey, I know you just did a cash out refinance, but look into getting a home equity line of credit. So the same property, the same duplex I'm in that I did the cash out refinance, I still had enough equity within that property after that cash out refinance to take out a home equity line of credit. So I got a credit line for approximately another $40,000. So now these have been, so this, I'm telling you, one property can utterly change your life, and this one has. I mean, even if it changes your life as the point where you minimize your own expense on housing, you did something good, but so I took out this $40,000 line of credit, and I've been keeping the ball rolling since then. So I bought 2 more properties since then.
Wow.
With this.
That is incredible. I mean, that's a grand slam. I did a podcast and it came out the other day, and it was like I believe I named it the perfect house hack. When in reality, obviously, there's no perfect house hack. As long as you're house hacking, you're winning. But that same thing that you did. You took out a cash out refi. You bought 2 properties with it. Then you went and took a HELOC out, and you bought. You said 2 more properties. 2
more, yeah, and one was actually my height. I would actually the third property I bought is actually, well, the fourth property it would be. That is a nicer house than I live in. It's a higher end property. It was almost double the price of all my other properties, but I was able to do it, and there were tenants in place, and even so, it cash flows enormously. So there'd be no point for me to leave my situation to live in that, that duplex.
Yeah,
there.
and all your properties, outside your house hack as you're living there, all your properties, you're cash flowing right now. And then also, I wanted you to touch on, can you just tell them pretty much how you repay a HELOC, home equity line of credit?
So you get a home equity line of credit, and it's actually a second lien or a second mortgage on. Usually, people can take them out on some of their investment properties, but most of the time, the easiest way you're gonna acquire this is through the house you occupy. So I got the home equity line of credit, and basically what it is it's a insured. The bank wants to give it to you based on the value of your house, and it's kind of insured by the fact that you have enough equity in your house to pay the loan back. If something happens, they can come get theirs, pretty much is what it comes down to. But yeah, it's a interest only loan, so it's very low. The interest rate on it is very low, very favorable. So you can have access to, it's basically like it's a line of credit, but it's like a credit card that with a very low interest rate that you can use to do anything really. And you pay the interest off every month, and then I'm basically just going to whittle down the outstanding balance and then just keep doing it again. Like, it can literally be a revolving door for you to make deals happen. So
exactly, and usually it's a 10-year period that you can use it, and then afterwards like a 10-year period where you have to pay it back. Are you just taking like the cash flow from all your properties and just slowly putting it in? Therefore, that technically you're not even paying for it. It's really the tenants that are paying for it.
Yeah. I mean, usually if I check my my accounts, and once it gets to like 5 digits, I'm gonna just cut a check and send it over to the bank that has my home equity line of credit. Drop that number down, and then it gets back to zero. And now I'm on the hunt again, because now, $40,000 in this market can ultimately probably get you 2 cash flowing properties if you find them right. So
exactly. And so you, it sounded like you found majority of your properties off market, right?
3 out of the 5 I did. 5. Yeah. Well, yep.
Okay. 3 out of the 5 you have. So people are saying right now, the market's insane. Can't find properties anywhere, right? But obviously you have, obviously you have, and you made it work. How have you been finding them? Is it just, word of mouth, obviously, networking? Well, how have you been finding these cash flowing properties in a market like this?
Well, this one hasn't, it hasn't bared any fruit yet, but I have a secret weapon, and that's a Catholic mom that taught. She has a very small circle of, other Catholic women that will, spread the word that, hey, did you hear that Jason's looking for houses? And I mean, they're throwing deals at me, probably once a week. They're, hey, old Mrs. Adamczyk has a house, her son just moved out of state. Are you interested? So, I mean, I'm getting more houses than I can even, shake a stick at here. I don't even have the funds for some of these houses. And, they mean well. But, when it comes with stuff like that, investment property isn't really usually what they're throwing me. It's usually, hey, I'm grateful for that. But yeah, otherwise it's really just talking. I mean, people at my job have been great. They know what I'm doing, and they're very supportive. And, a lot of them want to learn how to, be more comfortable. I think a point, they switched our paychecks over to bi-weekly, and it had been weekly. And I mean, the guys at my job, it's a blue-collar job. They work hard, and usually on the weekends they party hard, and it's Milwaukee, so, there's a lot of beer drinking that's going on with those guys. So, I mean, I think I casually said to a group of guys out in the shop at my job, like, hey, do we get paid this week or next week? Because legitimately I didn't know, because I really don't bank on my paycheck anymore. I have alternate sources of income. And I mean, they turned and looked at me like I, was cussing at them. And they said, how do you not know that we get paid next week? You really don't keep track of when you get paid? And I said, no, I hope it hits my account, but I'm not tracking it. I don't really need to at this point. So, I mean, it goes to show.
The properties that you purchase, I mean, it sounds like they are paying for all your expenses. So, and honestly, you kind of reverse the roles, and now your W-2 that you work, that's kind of the money that's coming in that you're not even touching, that just goes straight to your bank account, makes it grow, so that you don't have to worry about it. So, I mean, that just shows proof that real estate can change your, first off, mindset of how you think about money, because I think it's very important to, keep track of your money and everything. But when you have such a well-oiled machine over there with all your rentals, I mean, you don't have to bank, like you said, you don't have to bank on your W-2 money to be brought in and have to pay for expenses. That can be put away, to whatever accounts that you have that you want to that go down the road. So, I mean, I think that's huge. One question for you, LLCs or no LLCs?
No LLC. And the only reason that I haven't done that is because I have a lender that can ensure that I can get the 10 conventional mortgages with him. So
great.
When you do the LLC, now you're falling into, sometimes there's, commercial business loans, and you might have a little bit different underwriting for getting your conventional loans. It might not be as favorable. You might have to deal with adjustable rate mortgages. And for me, I like to know. I'm very, I wouldn't say risk adverse, but I think I'm very conservative, and I would like to know that I can meet these numbers, and adjustable rate mortgages aren't really what I'm after at this point. There's, in the future, obviously I'm open towards that, but I basically have a very sizable umbrella policy on all of my properties. And, there's advantages to that and there's disadvantages, but that's what insurance is there for. And, the umbrella policy it's sizable. So I think at this point I'm still so kind of small that I don't really need to do the LLC route.
Exactly. I think it's a heated debate between people for some reason, but I honestly don't think that there's, a wrong or right way. I mean, I'm in your situation. I just have it in our names, and we have an umbrella policy that, like you said, is large so that it protects us. And, other people will swear by the LLC, but I really don't think I think either or you'll be just fine. And I think the fact that you have properties in the first place is the main, that's the main catalyst of what you should worry about, and to your cash flow, to your success, to your scaling, all that. So you have these 5 properties. What's kind of your goal going forward?
I mean, really, just getting into this business of assets versus liabilities and watching it play out in front of me is just so life-changing. Like, it pretty much has opened up the doors to any endeavor that, I've looked into buying a franchise. I've looked into, because once you understand, cash flow, expenses, and there's alternate areas that you can, kind of that are open to you. But I like the feeling of having stable rentals and enjoying the cash flow from time to time. But I'm a very active guy, and I'm always on the hunt for the next deal. So I don't think I will ever stop accumulating properties. I think my last one was the single family that I think I closed in October. And I had to promise my wife, like, all right, I'll stop for the holidays, because, she really helped me immensely get that house prepped and get that tenant in there. I mean, we were over there. My son, I had him in one of those, like a playpen thing, and he was not having it. I mean, he just wanted it to be over too. We're going to look back on these days and just say, think about the sacrifice that was made to, be financially free so I could spend time with him. But yeah, I want to grow and scale, but at the same time, I want to do it at my pace, where it is kind of like a work-life balance type of thing. I want to do it in balance, where I'm not putting undue burdens on my wife. I want to be able to give my devoted time to my W-2, and and then have a little time for myself. I have so many hobbies. I do jujitsu. I'm a workout addict. I box. I mean, so when I'm burning the candle at both ends, sometimes you gotta sit back and smell the roses. But a whole nother thing too. Being a guest on these podcasts has really opened up my mind to getting into podcasting myself, because I know how much I've learned from podcasts, and if there's any kind of value in just my networking skills to reach out to other real estate investors so they can tell their story, even, guys that have been in prison that have, defied the odds and came out and have been successful, I'd really like to interview them. So, real estate has opened up to, I can't believe I'm a guest on a podcast, especially yours too, because I'm telling you, I've been more excited to be on this podcast than any of the other ones I've been on, because I see so much potential with this podcast growing. I mean, you're doing excellent stuff, and I've been more excited to tell my story on this podcast. So you heard it here first. I am very glad to be in the first 10 episodes of the Chasing Cashflow podcast. So, real estate can open so many doors for you, and, you learn so much from this community.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The little girl in me is screaming right now, so thank you. I really do appreciate that, man. And you've been an amazing guest. Honestly, I mean, I feel like half the time today, I didn't even feel like we were on a podcast. I just felt like we were talking, and I think that's huge. And I think 100%. I mean, just for I believe at this time, 7 or 8 interviews right now. And I'm like I told you before we went on here, I'm like a sponge right now. Like, I'm collecting so much information. And Patrick McGrath, that's a episode that's actually airing, I believe, the second week of January. It should be out by the time yours is out. But he talked about the seller carryback that lowers your down payment. So when you have a commercial loan, if you have the seller finance 20% and you got to put down 20%, well, then you have to bring zero to the table. So it lowers the amount, and it's a great tactic. Well, I'm utilizing right now, and right now I'm looking at a deal where the seller is considering that, and hopefully it works out. But that's just something that I never knew about that can get people with having problems with down payments into a property. So honestly, man, I would 100%. I think you would be great at it. Obviously, you are welcome here anytime if you ever want to co-host or anything, man. But I think first off, you have a ton of information to share, and I think you can I'm learning so much right now. I'm loving it. Way out of my comfort zone, but I'm absolutely loving it. But I really appreciate the great words that you've been saying. So we're gonna work on getting you out of here now, unfortunately. But first question is, what's your why? What's your why for real estate investing?
Time freedom, and definitely time with my son too, because I want to be the strong male role model that boys need, and I need to have free time to do that, and it's all about time freedom. I lost by my own actions, I lost quite a bit of time of my life that I couldn't be a productive member of society. So I did that, and that's my punishment. But, as far as now, you can't get that time back, so you have to maximize the time you have. And I hate to say it, but, punching in and punching out every day for 40 years, it's very hard to chase your goals and chase your dreams. So, pretty much for that. So it's time freedom.
Exactly. And yeah, like you just said, I mean, you a good, chunk of your life was taken away, but still you got out, you took action, and now you're at a point right now that's way above a lot of real estate investors, and you're still going at it. You're still consistent. You're taking action, and that's how you put yourself. That's how you get lucky, because you put your situations and I hate using the word lucky, but people that get lucky, it's usually because they work hard, they put themselves in the position to get lucky. So I'm not saying you're lucky at all. I'm just saying that you work extremely hard, and for some instance, if something were to happen where something out of the blue, like you're spreading the word that you're a real estate investor and something comes to you with a huge deal, you make it work. Well, that might not have happened to a normal person because they're not taking the steps to, tell everyone about it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And I did get lucky, though. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, who walks into a $67,000 chunk of equity when you're going for a jog in the neighborhood? But it all comes down to discipline, and I believe a lot in gratitude, and being thankful for everything. Even at that point, I was thankful to have a landlord rent to me, paying a triple security deposit. I mean, it comes down to gratitude more so than anything. I'm thankful for everything I have, but yeah, there was some luck involved there. But hey, you know what?
Hey, that's okay.
Yeah, the more gratitude you're taking in every day, I think the more blessings that come your way, and you got to give to get sometimes too. So do the right thing and get the most out of life.
Love it, man. Love it. Yeah. So, I mean, you already touched on it kind of, but your activities, what do you do outside of real estate?
I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a big nerd. On any given day, you can find me pretty much stuck on the internet learning something about, even genealogy, or just I get into some goofy stuff. But yeah, I'm disciplined with working out. I do it. I think that's somewhat a form of meditation. I mean, you kind of have to be in a present moment when you have 200 pounds overhead. Jiu-jitsu is another thing I'm heavily into, but I like consuming content. I like learning. I like listening to podcasts is like a guilty pleasure. Like if I have a drive somewhere, I'm like, I'm excited because I can take something in. So I love podcasts. I love, brainstorming ideas to have my own podcast. I have one, and I have a landing page too. So it's feedoffear.com is my website. I'm not selling anything. It's basically just a platform for people to get in touch with me, share ideas. It's kind of my brainchild to, if you feed off fear and make your dreams come true. But, nothing, if it doesn't instill fear, it's beneath your true potential. So that's like the motto. If you're not if you're not afraid to take these steps, then you're not going big enough.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And no, I think that, you're obviously doing it right. If you get into podcasting, trying to share knowledge, trying to help real estate investors, and you're in it for the money, trying to sell something, you're in it for the wrong reason. I believe. Obviously, at first, like, this podcast is only for informational right now. I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to do anything, just like you are. Make sure to send me an email with that information. I'll put it in the show notes. So everyone that's listening to this right now, you can go to, it's fear off, or what is it again?
Feedoffear.com. So like you're eating your fears and you're feeding off them. So
no, I love it, man.
Hey, another thing too, like, I want to learn from you, and that's something. You're very good at what you do, and you're bringing me a lot of value by seeing how you conduct the interviews of the guests on your podcast. And there's so much information out here, and there's so much to learn from people, and you got to take it in. You got to take it in, and consume this content and be the best person you can be. It goes with human optimization. Awesome.
Exactly. Be a sponge and be nice. There you go. You heard it here first. No, that's awesome, man. I love it. I love that you got on this podcast, and I appreciate you for being here. Where can people find more about you? Obviously, what you just said, your website, but social media, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on social media. I have the same tagline for Instagram. It would be @feedoffear. So it's, very minimal. I'm a pretty busy guy, so, it's not like I have a team of social media experts working for me. So, if I read something that inspires me, I'll put a post up, hey, check this out. If I listen to a podcast I like, I put it up. So basically there you can, link in the bio to my website. And I've done a lot of like blog writing too. I actually break down this whole duplex deal that I'm in right now. It's called Wealth Propeller. So read it. I like putting up content, and I like just, there's all kinds of stories on there, and I need some tweaks, and I'm learning that too. That's learning how to build and maintain a website. So sky's the limit when you open your mind to learning something. Delve into it and find the resources. We live in the greatest time in history to gather information, so do it.
Exactly. And I think that after listening to this podcast, like the listeners that haven't started yet, I honestly don't think there's an excuse. You literally, hit the hardest adversity you probably could hit. And then, you pretty much started from zero coming out of jail, and, look where you're at now. And it's all because you put your head down, you worked hard, and you fought adversity head on. And I think that's huge, and I think that's awesome. And, that is very inspirational. So thank you for sharing your story today. I absolutely loved it. I know the listeners are going to get value out of this, but thank you so much. I look forward to having you on again. I will 100% have you on again. Awesome. In, maybe a year or so when you got, 5, 10, maybe more units, properties.
Could be.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't sit still, and I would love to, I love watching to see you grow as well. What you're doing is not an easy thing to do, to start such a informational, successful podcast from the ground up. And you're good too. You're good. Like I told you before we started recording, I was more nervous for this podcast than I was for the other ones I've done, and those were pretty large established podcasts. So I see so much, a bright future for this podcast, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The million of listeners here. I mean, sorry, the tens of listeners here will definitely appreciate it, man. But,
what? One day that million will not be a fallacy. That will absolutely, that will come through, and it will happen. Especially if you manifest it.
Speak it into existence, right?
Manifest that. Get it.
Exactly. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing everything that you do, man.
You too. You as well. Thank you so much for letting me tell my story.